ready? Are you ready for this intimate conversation that I am about to have with our guest? As you probably already seen on some of the flyers on Instagram, Facebook, on my website, and also probably on YouTube, I'm going to introduce my guest, Miss DeShanta Hinton. Come on in, Miss DeShanta. I want you guys to begin to clap on your side of the screen on tonight. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Give me a hug. Give me a
Sure.
hug. Thank you so much for joining me on Building the Best You.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for talking about this subject that we have, not your typical life.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, DeShanta, you basically got on the website and you said that you wanted to be a part of Building the Best You show because you had a story to tell, right?
Yes.
And so before we get into your story, I was like, yes, I want you to share this story because I believe that your story is going to shed light on something that we probably go through, or many of us go through, many of us experience, but I believe that it's going to allow people to get healed. It's going to allow people to move past shame and embarrassment. And so I thank you. I thank DeShanta on today for being courageous, and being at this place in your life where you want to share a story. So when you went onto the website, I want you to just share with everyone your reason, your purpose for saying that you wanted to be on the show, what your story is about, and then we're going to dive into your story.
Okay, sure. So I went on the website and I wanted to be on the series to share my story because I felt like it would be very encouraging for other women. I know the show is focused on women, but it's encouraging for other people in general. I was a child of an incarcerated parent. My father was incarcerated for most of my life, and the typical story of an incarcerated child and parent relationship is that it's not good, it's not stable, it's not sturdy, and that was so not the story that I had with my father and with our relationship. And so I wanted to share that with other people to let them know that that's not how society makes things out, is not how it always has to be.
Right. So tell us about that, just being a little girl. How old were you at the time?
So when my father got locked up, the first time I was 2. So, and he was probably locked up most of my life, a majority of my life. He came home, he did stints, and he came home probably when I was like, maybe about 12. And
so what do you mean by stints?
So he would be incarcerated and then come home and get incarcerated again and then come home.
Okay.
And so that's what I mean by stints.
Okay.
So he would be incarcerated, come home for a little while, be incarcerated again, come home for a little while, and then his third strike, he received a life sentence. So he was incarcerated. That was his sentence, was his natural life. He would be locked up.
So let's go back. Let's go back to being 2 years old to all the way to being 12. Like, what was that like for you, having a father who was, constantly being incarcerated? Like, what did that do to you?
Well, from the beginning, I guess, being young, it just seemed the norm to me that I would go visit him in prison. And I attribute a lot of my relationship with my father and how close we are to my grandmother, his mother, because she was very adamant about going to visit him and making sure that we had visits, that I saw him, that we spent time together.
Right.
And so even though she would have to drive 4 hours away to Pennsylvania, she still would take that drive. Sometimes we would go for the day, sometimes we would go for the weekends. She would take me and my other cousins and we would go and spend time. And that just, being in that prison was like being at home in a living room with my father. So we would just talk about like everything, things that was going on with me as I was growing up, like transitioning from like elementary school to like middle school, things of that nature. So it was very impressionable. Those visits meant a lot to me, and they were very impressionable to me as a young child.
Even with that, as we talked about, it's not your typical story because this will really, sometimes hinder a child's growth, or saying that, my father, he wasn't there. He was always in jail. So this is why I'm the way that I am. And so why wasn't that your case?
It wasn't my case because it was just so much love in my family. And so I didn't, that just never was an option for me. Like that was never, I used that to be like my motivation. So I wanted to become a lawyer. So I went to college, I got a bachelor's degree, I got a master's degree. And so I wanted to pursue education because I wanted to help my father. And so for other reasons that didn't happen. I didn't go to law school, but I used that. That was my motivation for even wanting to go and seek a higher education.
Right.
Just wanting to be able to help him. So I never looked at it as a negative, and even to this day, like I'm very empathetic towards like people that are in prison because that's kind of what I've known growing up.
Right. So what was it that your father, what did he go to jail for?
Bank robbery.
Bank robbery.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, did you look at your dad like, oh my gosh, you're doing terrible things. Daddy, stop, please stop.
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I looked at him as like a Robin Hood, really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so.
So he was, but why did he do it though?
To know, you had to know my father. He was just the type of person that was always like taking on other people's problems. So if somebody couldn't pay whatever and he knew them, he felt like obligated to help them make sure that they could pay whatever it was. Or he was just always helping. And so he just kind of, felt obligated, and he always wanted to make sure that everybody was okay.
I think, society will definitely look at this, differently, right? They would basically call you guys, and you can make comments also, but they will call you a fatherless child. Because usually I would say how the government or the world, we'll say the world, how the world shaped this as is that a family for a child is a household with a mother, with a father, giving you all the necessities that you need to help you to grow. But so you would consider this fatherless child. Was your mom in the picture?
Yes.
Okay.
So
she was in the picture. She was help raising you with your grandmother and the rest of the family. But then for you not having a father, how do you become this woman? How do you become this woman who knows how to love, who knows how to just do a lot of things that a father should pour into you to help you be the woman that you are today. And I believe that, and let's talk about that too, because I believe that many women would say, well, I'm this way because I didn't have a father in the household, or I'm promiscuous maybe because I didn't have a father in the household. Do you feel like, things like that kind of hinder you along the way, No,
I don't. I never looked at it as being a fatherless child, even though he was not physically there. We still connected like through the visits, through the phone calls, through the letters, and we would just talk like about anything. So whatever was going on with me, I would just let him know. And when I was there physically, he was very like nurturing to me and just making sure that I was okay, and just always trying to like instill things into me. And so when in those short periods when he was out, he was doing the same thing. So I never felt as though I was fatherless, even though he wasn't physically there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really good. And I think that's definitely an encouragement to someone who's listening on today, to really talk about that. Are the things that we go through, the standards maybe that the world says, that we don't necessarily have to digest those things and really see ourselves as being a failure because of the culture that our family creates. It's almost like, create your own culture, create your own mindset, so that you can be able to grow and be cultivated in whatever is given to you. A lot of people don't make it out like would make it out, going to school and saying like, I see what my father is going through, so I'm gonna be a part of the justice system. Since and he wanted to take care of his family, so that's the way that he figured,
right.
the way that he figured, to do this.
Yeah.
And it's really not to look frowned upon, especially, when we're seeing, it's not necessarily done the exact right way, because you have your consequences that come behind it, but to really say that you were really telling your father, I'm not giving up on you. I believe in you. Did you ever want him to stop, though?
I did, but like you said, I was showing him just what I felt or what I knew in the family, because my grandmother never gave up on him, even though he did these things. He still was part of the family, so it wasn't like we just shun him away, you get incarcerated and you just have to do this time by yourself. That's not the case. You are still part of the family. We still love you, we still care about you, we still want to make sure that you're okay. Even though you made these decisions, we still, at the end of the day, we're still family.
You know what, that's very good too. I think that we should take something from what you said. We should take that, even though there's trials and there's tribulations, that happens, in our family. But one of the things that we should do in order to reach them is continue to love them, continue to pour into them, so that they're not, even though there's something missing, that they still know that family is still there, which I think that empowered him, that gave him motivation, they gave you motivation, because you were like, I'm going to school, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be successful so that I can help my dad, but also pour back into my community of those who are going through the same thing that he's going through. And so I think that that's amazing that you were able to do that. I mean, do you have people around you who maybe are kind of like the opposite? We're talking about not your typical life. So everybody they don't experience, they don't see life the way that you saw life.
This is true. But I wouldn't say that I really have anybody around me that doesn't see it like that, because the people that are close around me and that have had family incarcerated, we're all raised the same, so we all have been kind of taught the same, like, morals and values, so that even though they made these bad decisions, they're still a part of family. So we've taken these bad decisions that they made and kind of looked at them and said, oh, I'm not going to really follow in their footsteps, but I'm going to take that and use that to motivate me to do something different. So, there's not anyone really around me.
Which is really good, because you didn't have to grow up feeling ashamed of this. You didn't have to grow up. Look, I can relate. Okay, I love sharing just bits and pieces. I really like sharing everything, but almost everything, because you have to be careful, because people in our families have yet to really share their experiences. So you can't share every single thing, because you have to respect the privacy, of your family. But, even for myself, just to share a little bit with you guys, is that I grew up almost the same way. We have family members who were incarcerated, but we embraced our family member, who had to go through. So we were like at the jail almost every month. We took pictures, we ate together, we hugged. It wasn't strange. It was like a way of life, and there was hope. It wasn't like, when is he coming home? How long? It wasn't dreadful. And I think that the world gives us a different picture, as if, oh my goodness, this person, they went to jail. And we understand we're not rooting, you guys. We're not rooting for any type of bad behavior. But what we're saying is that if you love, if you embrace, if you build up, you help that person that's struggling, because it definitely is a struggle. Because I'm pretty sure if your dad could have found a different way of bringing some income in, and it was stable enough. Sometimes that was his stability. That was stable enough. He would. Other people go through other things or commit quote unquote other crimes,
Right.
and it's just like, oh my goodness, that was, super bad. But it's just like, that's my family, I love them. It's like you love the person but you hate the crime.
Right. Right.
you
So
love
you love the person, you hate the behavior.
you
So,
hate the behavior, but then you try to correct it because you do, at times they get out. So a lot of times they get out after 5 years, 10 years, 3 months, 20 years, or whatever. So when they get out, the love that you gave them, they can come out and feel like that they can be successful and not go back to, the same path,
Right.
that they were on. But just even going back to your story, it was the third strike for your dad was very hard, because at this time it wasn't him getting out maybe a couple of months later or a couple of years later. At this time it was for how long?
it was for life.
It was for life.
Which was his natural life sentence. So as long as he was alive, he would be incarcerated.
And I know that had to be definitely devastating. And just explain to our audience what you explained to me previously about the decision that your father decided to make while he was incarcerated with a life sentence.
So he decided to, on January 1st of 2012, he decided to take his own life. And
We have some tissue, guys. I'm here with you.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I was trying not to do this.
It's okay. It's okay. A lot of times we need this, and I believe that this is the healing process. A lot of times that these things don't necessarily affect our journey. We stay strong for a long time, but it's okay to hurt. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to feel vulnerable. Like, this might have been the cry that you needed to get out for so long because you had to be strong. You had everybody around you to be strong. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes it's not it's not your typical life. Sometimes we cry years before. Sometimes we cry years before, and you need this. Sometimes we don't know that that we're in some places on the inside of us is actually broken or actually cared that way, because you loved your dad.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to become the lawyer. You kept your mind focused for him. You were his strength. And right now, you need to cry so somebody else can be your strength. Right? It's very hard.
Yeah.
But it's okay. And I want to tell that to anybody that's out there listening on today. Like, anytime that we're going through our journey, anytime that we're going through our trials and tribulations, it's okay to cry. It's okay to go through. It's okay to explain. It's okay. Whatever it is that's going to get you to your place of healing. It's so amazing. It's so amazing that sometimes we don't even know that we really need this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we really need this, because there are places in us that's broken and we can't really touch it. We can't really put a word on it. We can't really translate what this pain feels like. Yeah. Anybody I've heard, I haven't lost a mother and lost a father, and I don't even want to know what that feels like.
Yeah.
But I know even in moments when I need my mother, especially with me being miles away from her. I'm like, where are you? So I can just only imagine what it can feel like, of how many years you have fought for him now not to be here, but to be here in your heart.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you probably look like him. You probably do some things like him.
Right.
You know, you're a part of his image.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you feeling?
I don't know. Just every time I feel like I can talk about it, and then when I have to actually say what happened, I just get emotional because, I miss him. Like, we had a very good relationship. Even though he was incarcerated, we were very close. And I just miss him. Like, I miss being able to talk to my father. I miss being able to just visit him. I miss being able to hear him call me, press 5 so I could talk to him.
Yes.
So I miss that stuff.
Yeah. But when we were conversing about this, and I said that I asked you, how did it make you feel to know that the decision he decided to make was to take his own life, and you replied and said he did it because
he did it because he knew that he had that life sentence, and he knew that he would not be able to, if anything was to happen to his mom or to me or to my son or anybody close to him, he wouldn't be able to be here for them. So it would be easier for him to not be here than for him to have to be here and have to endure something of that nature.
So even in taking his life, he was a hero.
Right. Because he wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about everybody else. So it's easier for us to go to attend his funeral because we were all out here.
Yeah.
So, and we all had each other, but it wouldn't have been easy for him for my grandmother to pass and he not be able to attend her funeral, or for anything to happen to me or to my son or anybody close to him, his brothers or sisters, his nieces or nephews, anything to happen to them, and he not be able to be a part of it or be here for them.
That's courageous in itself, you know, to know that even though we may look at it, society can look at our lives however they want to look at it, but he served a purpose, and for his purpose in him was like, I'm going to love my family, I'm going to take care of my family. You hear some people say by any means necessary, and your father was about any means necessary. My family was going to eat, they weren't going to starve, they weren't going to do this. If I can't take care of them, if I can't do it, you know, it hurts me too bad to see them not be successful the way that I see success. So kudos to your dad in heaven. Kudos to your dad for just being a man that can be remembered as someone who was a provider, who took care, and then to see his offspring also to be successful, you know, and to love him that much, that even now today to even talk about it, and it still brings, it brings a hurt, but it brings out something that says, an expression that says, I love my dad, you know, and he was a great man in my sight. You know, that he was a great man. And kudos to your grandma.
Exactly, for taking those trips.
For taking those trips and being a woman who loved family.
Right.
And you know, you guys don't know this, but I'm pretty sure you heard the last name Hinton. And so, you know, Miss Healthy and Wealthy, who is her cousin, Miss DeShanta Hinton. You know, you've heard her story, but you know family. And we also had Mr. Tony Lewis, who's also your cousin, who basically helped those, who is a reentry specialist, who helped those who are incarcerated, you know. So it's like you guys are really doing things to really help trailblaze, you know, an area where people can really be successful despite the odds that are against them. So kudos to your whole family. You guys, DeShanta, were you born and raised in DC?
Yes, born and raised, native Washingtonian.
A
Yes.
native Washingtonian. And your
Exactly.
family has a street name
Yeah.
after them. So let me tell you. So I think that they rule the southeast side of DC. That's not
Northwest,
even
northwest.
you know, of DC. Their family has a street named after them. Okay, so they're rocking and rolling in DC. So when you see the street Hinton, that's their family. But I want to touch bases because everybody doesn't have, like I was saying earlier, that typical life, you know, that not so typical life. Some people have that typical life where life begins to throw them all type of hard balls, throw things their way, and sometimes they begin to digest that. They begin to say, man, I don't have a father, I don't have a mother, my family member is incarcerated, so this must be who I'm going to be, you know. And so I believe that when we begin to start thinking that we're going to be something that our story kind of plays out in society, we begin to be that person. We begin to accept less. We begin to think less for ourselves. We begin to accept that we're going to be insecure because we don't have certain things, you know, happening to us in our lives. And I just want to say that that's a lie. As you can see, all these things that DeShanta has had to endure from the age of 2, you know, all the way until an adult, she made a decision, you made a decision in your life that you were going to be a success story and not let what was going on with your father dictate your future, right?
Yeah.
So, but some people don't, and I don't want to, because the show is about, you know, women sharing their journeys of trials and triumphs to help the next woman to be healed and to be successful. So if there's anybody out there who maybe the odds seem like that they're against you, I want to let you know this, that the world has a standard or a stereotype, but God also has a standard. I don't know if you guys ever heard the scripture, and I'm not going to take you into a whole prayer session or a Bible study or anything, but I just want to put this out there because I have to put a hope on the inside of someone, right? I'm a testament, DeShanta is a testament, and so many other people are a testament that the world might have a standard. That if you don't have a particular, you know, type of household, you're going to be this type of person. But the Word of God says that, you know, the enemy comes in like a flood. So that means that things can come at you. Opposition can come at you. And then the second part of that scripture says that the Spirit of the Lord sets a standard. So that means that God has a standard for you. And if we begin to look at our lives according to the standard of God, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. Like, as a man thinketh, you know, so is he. You got some other ones?
Okay, you're the head and not the tail.
You're the head and not... Come on, girl,
Okay.
come on. You're the head.
All right.
I think you had a praying grandma.
I did. I had a couple of them.
You had a couple of praying grandmas.
Exactly.
And it's so important to pour the positivity, you know, in yourself and have positive affirmations for yourself so that you know no matter the hard balls that you're throwing at, you can still, you know, live that standard that God has for you. You can still be a success story. You can still go to school and get your bachelor's degree. You can still be, you know, a successful businesswoman because DeShanta, you don't have to tell everything about, but at this point in your life, you are.
I am a division chief. I work in HR for the federal government.
She works in HR for the federal government. You guys, you hear that? So despite what she had to endure the trials and tribulations even with her father, or quote unquote being a fatherless, child. Even though she said, I didn't feel like I was fatherless, but the world will say that she's a fatherless child. And when we see people who are fatherless child, we say that these things will happen to them, but it's not true. So anybody today who is struggling, do we have anybody today that might be struggling? Come on, in order for us to get healed and be successful, you have to begin to release that thing. You have to begin to talk about it. You have to begin to share it, to move past shame, to move past embarrassment, so that you can move to the next level in your life. That you can be whatever success story that you want to be. Some of us who are broken, deeply rooted hurt. It might be hurt from grandma, auntie, a best friend, a sister, let's say siblings, so I don't have to say sister and brother. It might be hurt from a teacher or anything. And what we have to stop doing is placing our value and what somebody else thinks about us or says about us, and begin to think great things about ourselves like you did. You changed how you changed your thinking. You kept your thinking positive.
Yeah, and I think what helped is that, and I was just listening to you as you were speaking, like I was never ashamed about him being incarcerated. I was never embarrassed about him being incarcerated.
Right.
That never affected me. My self-confidence was never low. I never, I just never, those things never were a part of me, or what I, digested from the situation.
Yeah.
I always was just kind of the opposite of that. So
true.
From the beginning, I guess I just haven't been the typical,
right.
the typical child
now,
of an incarcerated parent.
Now, this is what you call weird. If we don't put labels on people, we put labels on people what we feel like is not the norm.
Right.
But this was your norm. This was the norm of those who were, around. I mean, I grew up, half of the people who I grew up with, and this is in all due respect, majority of us didn't have a two-parent household, but we had a parent household. It could have been grandma and grandmother, grandma and grandfather raising us. It could have been auntie and cousin. But that family relationship that we had built us, It built us instead of it breaking us. They were there to fill in the gaps when we were fatherless children.
Exactly.
They were there. They took care of the birthdays. They took care of the nice clothes. Or, as teenagers, you get upset almost about any time somebody tell you no.
Okay.
But you got to accept the no.
Right. And that's true.
And you have to grow from the no. So I think that is so very important. So if you guys, anybody out there, if you have someone in your family who is going through some things, who is broken, do one of the things that DeShanta and her family did for each other, was that they decided to love on each other, to support each other, and not look at the negative, but try to look more at the positive. And that gives the other person who's struggling hope. It gives them something to hold on to. It allows them it allows more, to activate more faith instead of fear in your life.
And doubt.
When your dad came home, he had a place to come to,
Right, yeah.
He had a place to come to. Sometimes you have to allow them to have a home to come to, or try to find, especially those who might want a little bit of help instead of pushing them off. And I know all our stories are different, but even if you can't give them a home to come through to, give them a heart to come through to. Not downing them, not talking about them. Even if they want to be out on the streets, make sure you tell them, I love you. I pray for the best. I want the best for you, instead of turning up your nose.
Right.
You guys, we are out here. It's too many of us that are hurting. That are hurting at our core. And we really need somebody to empower us, to inspire us, to encourage us. And a lot of times we get hurt with family first.
Mm-hmm.
But family has a responsibility, because we're privileged with information that the world isn't privileged to. So when you're privileged with information about a broken family member, about a family member that's struggling, you have to know that you are responsible in some type of way to build them up, whether it's through prayer or anything like that. It might be $1. I ain't giving them no dollar. But sometimes you just have to release yourself
and give them the
dollar.
Give
them the dollar.
Okay.
And just do something. Drop it somewhere. Let them pick it up, whatever it is, so they know that there's a little bit of love still left, a little bit of hope that's still left. Because we're so made in the image of God that it's like he came to the poor, he came to the prostitute, he came to the lowly, he came to the broken, he came to the blind, those who were really struggling. There's a story that says that, like, I don't know you or something like that. But he was like, give to the least, the story. I'm trying to pull it on now while I'm thinking about it. But, like, feed those who are least. Feed those who are, or give to those who are not doing, so well, or something like that. It's so important, because we are here and we have a purpose. So before we, conclude on the show, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you once again for having the courage to be able to come on and share your trial and share your journey and push past shame and embarrassment, the shame and embarrassment that you never felt in the first place.
Exactly.
But you're letting somebody know that you don't have to be ashamed.
Yeah.
You don't have to be embarrassed.
Exactly.
Right. Anything that you've been through, believe me, your story will help somebody else. But is there anything that you want to leave every viewer with? Thank you guys for tuning in. Just with what you would like to share with them or encourage them with?
I guess I would just say that you just don't have to, let your circumstances dictate what your outcome is going to be.
Right.
You can always change your circumstances. You're dealt, they say when you're dealt lemons, make lemonade. So, trials and tribulations will come in life, and, we're overcome by our testimony. And so when you go through trials and tribulations, they come to make you strong. They come to encourage you.
Yes.
They come to build you up in your faith. And so, just count all those things joy. Count all of those things good. And just know that, as long as God is for you, who can be against you? And despite what's going on in your life, just continue to keep pushing forward. Just keep pushing forward. Every day above ground is a good day. So just keep pushing forward.
Ooh, every day above ground is a good day. So you have a purpose. You have a purpose here. So I want to thank you for coming on to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for shedding tears and getting a release on today.
Thank you for letting me shed the tears.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I tried to be strong and not do it, but
we don't have to be strong all the time. That's why we're here, so we can have somebody to cry with us. Sometimes we walk around and we're just trying to hold it all up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to just break, cry, just be yourself, and then shake it back off and be quote unquote normal again.
Right.
And it's okay.
Right.
And it's okay to do
Yes.
it. Yeah, we got to understand that. We need that.
Yeah.
So that's good. You guys, I hope that you
Exactly.
enjoyed the Building the Best You show today. I want you to make sure that you share it. But I also want to make sure that you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at I am Sha'Meca Latai on all platforms. And my website is IamSha'MecaLatai.com. If you have a story, if you have a journey that you want to share of trials and triumphs that will help somebody else be healed and be successful, but will also get you to your own breakthrough. get you to your own breakthrough. You guys hear me? I want you to go on to my guest page and sign up. Share your story so we can get you on the show so that somebody can be healed and be successful. I love you guys. Thanks for being on the show, and I'll see you next week. Be blessed.